Hey guys, Kevin, and I know I am very behind on my reviews for The Path. Yes, I am still watching that show, but just like Bates Motel and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I fell behind, and I don't really know why. I meant to review episode 5 when I watched it, because I did watch it, and I never reviewed it, and then I just kept falling more and more behind. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it that week. I didn't watch it the next week. I didn't watch it. So, basically, I'm going to do with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Bates Motel. Luckily, I only have 3 episodes to review. But unlike Bates Motel and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a lot happened in these 3. Well, a lot did happen in Bates Motel and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, but I have a lot to say about these 3 episodes. And the path became better and better, I think, with these 3 episodes, definitely. I mean, episode 4 really showed how great the show can be, but episode 7, I think, really shows its perfection and how it's getting better and better every episode. Um, but I figured I'd just do what I did with Bates Motel and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll review the 3 episodes that I missed, and then quickly talk about them, give you my thoughts on all 3 of the episodes, because like I said, I have a lot to say about them, and then I'll be consistent starting this week. I'll review episode 8, and then I should be more consistent because there's only 3 episodes left. But let's just get into it. Overall, guys, let me just say, amazing 3 episodes. I mean, this show really is just surprising me so much. I remember I thought the show was going to be just a good show. I didn't really think anything that of it, when it premiered. I'm like, I like it. It's not hooked me. After episode 4, I'm pretty much hooked. I mean, these 3 episodes were great. I think they were all fantastic. Episode 5 being the weakest of the 2. Each of these 3 episodes got better and better and better. Episode 7 being the best. Episode 5 being my least favorite episode, probably. Actually, my least favorite episode this season probably is episode 3. But I really enjoyed all 3 of these episodes. Let's just get into it. There's a lot to talk about. Starting off with Eddie, of course, our essential main character. Basically, we know that Eddie is now in 7R. He has decided to try to participate in 7R, and we see that he's digging a lot of holes. And I thought it was interesting the way the show showed that basically, if you sin, you have to dig a hole, and that's kind of what Eddie is forced to do. He's forced to dig this hole. And while he's digging this hole, he sees a vision of what looks like Cal and Sarah making out. And this does not surprise us because we know that he's worried that Sarah's getting too close to Cal. We know that he's worried that he's slowly losing Sarah because Sarah thinks he's having an affair. And he's also worried that Sarah is going to leave him because she thinks that he had an affair with Miranda Frank. And also because he's losing his faith. And I really like the way they showed these visions. Basically, we can see when Meyerism gets very high stressed, they start to have these visions. That's a very essential part later when I get to episode 7. But I thought this was really cool because basically this really is showing his worst fears. He's really worried about this, and he also sees a vision of the catatonic Meyer, which of course is true. So that's very interesting. And obviously, knowing that's true, it really does scare Eddie because he knows that Stephen Meyer is in fact catatonic. And knowing that, he's worried that Cal and Sarah, that they actually are going to get together, which really does scare him. So basically, I think it makes sense that Eddie was freaking out about this, and he knows enough not to tell Cal what he saw at least, because obviously Cal's very stressed out, things like that. So I thought that was definitely very interesting. Um, so he really, though, has a lot of bigger things on his mind. He can't get the vision of Cal and Sarah out of his head. He nonetheless tries to take a calm tone when they're alone, reminding her that Hawk's just a teenager with hormones, because basically Hawk and Ashley get a lot more than I thought they were going to. Hawk and Ashley, to me, seemed like they were just going to be a typical teen storyline, and that there is anything but that. Hawk and Ashley is probably one of the best parts of the show. Why? Because it doesn't focus on them as a couple. It focuses on them as people. Hawk is a very deeply religious, person who basically has been taught that Meyerism is what you need to believe in, and that if you're not Meyerist, you're wrong, and he just can't really see it any other way. Well, Ashley, of course, is an IS. She is, a mute. She is, basically indifferent to Meyerism. She doesn't necessarily hate it, but she just doesn't really think much of it. And I like the way they really develop their relationship in these 3 episodes, especially here. We see that basically they're kissing out. They end up passing out beside the campfire. We know, of course, that they did go to that party, and she's trying to have sex with him, but Hawk just doesn't want to. They're kissing and everything, and we see there's a lot of adrenaline, things like that, and he hurriedly rushes home because Hawk knows that he's with an IS girl, and obviously that's forbidden when you're when you're a Myris. And everyone else, meanwhile, they've noticed his absence. They don't know where he is, and Joy does rat him out, though, because she knows that Hawk and Ashley are together. And this really creates a very interesting dynamic for Eddie and Sarah, which I really love, because it really shows how different these two are. I know a lot of people are having this distaste for Sarah, but I've never disliked Sarah. I think she's a fine character. I think they're doing a good job with her. I really have no problems with her. But Eddie and Sarah are very divided here. Sarah, basically is very much against this. She says that he needs to even take him out of school. And we know that was the first episode she's wanted to take him out of school. But she even brings it up again that, hey, I can take you out of school. She even says, things like, how when that Hawk's just a teenager with hormones. Eddie says he's grateful that his parents didn't push back against his youthful rebellion, but Sarah naturally goes way over the line by bringing up Eddie's dead parents and suicidal brother. And before Eddie can get mad, Cal shows up for his turn to yell at Sarah. He's infuriated that Sarah sent Freddie Ridge and his mother to Peru for treatment against his explicit orders. And John Ridge, who Cal is counting on as a big potential donor, has already given him an earful. And, he's really upset about this, obviously. So Eddie stops Cal, asks him to leave. And, like I said, they really get divided with this whole situation. Eddie feels that there is a chance that maybe Hawk does have a chance with Ashley, while Sarah's very much like, no, 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 this is not going to work. She wants him to leave school. And Eddie, you can tell, actually thinks it's okay. He's okay with bending some of these rules. He's okay with some of the rules, with Hawk actually going against some of them. Because if he loves this girl, then that's really all there is to it. And he just wants to make sure that it's not really his fault, which is very interesting that we saw. Because he just repeats religious dogma in response to Hawk's questions. And he wants to make sure that Hawk's not acting out because of Eddie's affair. That's also what it is. Because Hawk, of course, very much believes that Eddie had an affair with Miranda Frank, which I'm pretty sure we are starting to see is not true. Just the way it's headed, it seems like that's not what happened. But Hawk assures A that's not the case. But seeing his father waver undoubtedly encouraged him to do the same, really. Because he saw his father kind of turning against his religion and doing things that were wrong, and basically were sacrilegious to Meyerism, he felt that he should do the same thing. And I think it's interesting the way that Hawk is doing that, because it seemed like Hawk was someone who very much listens to his mother and doesn't really listen to his father. But now it seems like it's the other way, where Hawk really is trying to make a choice where does he want to be a Myeris or does he just want to be his own person, which I think is a very interesting direction to take him, and I really do love seeing that. So really interesting stuff with Hawk in this episode. Like I said, I think they did a very good job with that, and most of the episode does focus on that, which I really did like seeing. Um, Meanwhile, Cal, though, we see he is really in this position because, of course, Cal really is trying to figure out what to do with Freddie Ridge. Obviously, Sarah sent Freddie Ridge away, and he's really pissed because he could use Freddie Ridge. And we know, of course, John Ridge, Cal has a real problem with him, John Ridge. I mean, John Ridge, of course, we know is very much against Meyerism, and to Cal, if you're against Meyerism, you're pretty much indifferent to him. He doesn't necessarily not care, but he just doesn't really think of you much. He doesn't really think much of you. He's not really going to help you. If you need help, he's not really going to be there for you. So he furiously calls Silas in Peru, but only gets voicemail. Like I said, he gets in that huge fight with Sarah because, of course, what happened, and he calls Silas in Peru, but only gets voicemail. He tries to get an immediate flight to Peru, but there aren't any available. And that's when Mary decides to walk in and basically tell him that she and Sean had sex and she couldn't have picked a worse time. And Cal furiously tells her to leave. After she does, he ends up shaking with rage again. Because we know, again, whenever Cal hears something about sex, he starts to convulse. It's very interesting the way he feels about this. And it's just really interesting. And it really does seem like Mary is kind of the one to calm him down, because she usually does calm him down. It seems like she's the only thing that can really bring him to calm him down, because he's so full of rage and so full of this inner beast within him. It's a very interesting thing. It really does seem like throughout these 3 episodes that Cal is about to crack. It really does seem that way. Cal hasn't cracked yet. He's not completely erratic yet, but I feel like he's really headed in that direction. So Cal does apologize for what he said to Sarah. Apparently, he's the only person alive who Sarah accepts apologies from. Everyone else gets orders. We see Hawk screaming. Pretty much everyone else she just yells at. But Cal, she actually does appreciate. Probably because Cal actually does, is a Myeris. He is a true Myeris. He's not someone that's going to stray against his religion. He's not someone that is going to do things that she thinks are wrong. And like I said, I don't see Sarah as annoying. I see her as someone that is very deep in her faith, and she wants to keep her faith with her. She doesn't want to stray away from that faith, and that's why she is so, that's why she is so, her faith is very important to her. That's really how it is. But she also tells him the reason she's worried about Hawk. Apparently, a girl named Tessa did the same thing years earlier. She fell in love. She quit Myers before she turned 16, and Cal prays with her, which Mary spies on, interprets as some kind of cheating on her affections. And her relation with Cal, really, you can see, is just very twisted. And it really makes us wonder, is that scene with Eddie actually going to happen? And meanwhile, with Eddie's 7R training, we see he and Cal do take a break from some binding time. Cal shares that his deepest fear is actually leading an unimportant life, and it's a very interesting scene. He tells Cal he saw a predictive vision of Cal yelling at Sarah, which we didn't know if he was going to talk about, but he does talk to him about it. And That's not true, though. That's not what it's about. We know that it was Cal and Sarah making out. He doesn't tell him what it actually was. He says that Cal was yelling at Sarah, and it's interesting because it really makes us think that Eddie's visions might have just been, to him, and he might not have seen it that way, and he doesn't know, but the Meyer one was true. Maybe the Cal Sarah hookup will be true, because I kind of do see it as a prophecy, like these things might actually happen, which is interesting, and really is kind of scary on Eddie's part, because he obviously does not want his wife to, end up kissing Cal. Obviously, he wants to keep his wife with him, so I think that's very interesting the way we saw that. Mary wants to leave Meyerism, though, because of Cal. She only ever signed up because of him, and if she's lost faith in him, she might as well leave. That is the only reason why, because he gave her that, he provided her, saying, we'll help you, I'm going to bring you light, I'm going to save you, and it's not really working. Sean, however, provides a great defense of the movement. He retells the story of his twin sister dying in a school shooting, but now as the attack was racially motivated, and the outside world is not, when it's not violent ugly, it's kind of just boring. And he's really telling her there's nothing really good that can come out of this. But Sean believes in Meyerism because, different as they all are, all the members are motivated by the quest for a better world. And that's exactly why Mary's there. We know why she's there, because she was she was a sex slave, and what her father did, and she's really trying to turn herself around. And I think Sean really makes Mary remember why she signed up for this, which I thought was a very good scene. I really enjoyed seeing that. Really good stuff there. And I thought there was some really good stuff with that. So Hawk essentially decides that he does want to be with Ashley. He's going to go against Sarah. He's not going to do what he does. And Sarah tells Hawk this story that I don't necessarily know if it's true. I feel like she might just be telling him this to get her on her side, because she tells him that she had a miscarriage, but a trip to Peru saved him while he was still, he was still, while she was still pregnant, and basically he tells Ashley that they can't hang out anymore, but she sees right through him. No, it's a religion that tells you who you can and can't like is stupid, and she knows he likes her, and basically he tells his mother that he's planting trees for repentance while secretly meeting up with his girlfriend. So they are together secretly. No one knows they're together, but they are together, and you can tell this is going to become a problem later. Cal decides to speak with John Ridge again when Ridge basically they get into this huge fight because basically they're just so different. Cal bursts out in an impassioned defense of his friend, calling her an angel, and Ridge responds by sizing an enforcer on Cal. Again, this Cal gets horribly beaten up, and it's really crazy to see. He gets very badly beaten up. Eddie and Sarah have sex at the end of this episode because it's basically showing that they are still together and that Eddie can trust her. And I did like seeing that. I thought there was some really good stuff there. But like I said, you really don't see things going well for Cal after this. Hawk is now with Ashley. Things are good there. And then as far as Abe goes, let's talk about Abe, because we do get some more insight on Abe in this episode. Over the course of these 3 episodes, it really does seem like Abe is not just going to be a spy. Like, it really starting to seem like he believes in Meyerism. His daughter has very bad PS, and he feels that Meyerism might actually be able to save her. And it's very interesting the way this is going, because of course, Abe is pretending to be this guy, Sam, and he actually gets this really nice conversation between him and Eddie. Eddie basically tells Abe that he wants to try to find the first run. He's either going deep cover or really wants to help his daughter, and throughout these 3 episodes, really all I can say is that Abe is just getting more and more deep into his investigation. He's trying to find out more about Meyerism, and I really think it's no longer just about Cal. He's not investigating Cal. What he's investigating is Meyerism. Is this really something that he wants to do? Is this really just something he's investigating? Because to me, it seems like he's investigating it because he's actually interested. Like, maybe he might actually want to join Meyerism and become a Meyerist in the future, which is very interesting. I think it's a really good direction for Abe to go, and I really like the way they did that. So that's pretty much everything on episode 5. Let's get into episode 6, which was, without a doubt, one of the best episodes we've had this season. I loved episode 6. Thought there was some really great stuff here. Basic plot of episode 6 is that Ashley's family ends up getting evicted from their house because she's an IS girl, and it's a really interesting situation because basically the way this episode starts, we see Sarah hears that there are these outsiders that are getting evicted that, seem to, and she seems open to allowing outsiders into her home. When she and Eddie hear on the radio that there are arrested 40 illegal workers, many of whom had children in the U.S., and Ashley's family is one of them. But as predicted, Sarah isn't as keen with this because she knows that Ashley's an IS girl. She knows that Ashley isn't really someone that she wants Hawk to be with, and because of that, you really don't know what's going to happen here, if this is really going to work out, and it's a very interesting, it's a very interesting conflict what ends up happening here. because we see Hawk suggest that Sarah taking Ashley's family, and Sarah's suddenly much less open, we can see, and Sarah suspects that Hawk is being pulled away from Meyerism. She even accuses him of not being wanting to be a part of Meyerism, which honestly I believe. I believe that Hawk really is gonna being just like Ashley, indifferent to Meyerism. Like he doesn't really care about Meyerism more than he just cares about himself. He just wants to have this relationship with Ashley. He cares about people. He just wants to be a normal person, and she should be worried. Ashley's a smart girl, as we see, and he answers to Hawk's existential questions are perfectly crafted. What if this isn't real and I'm ruining my whole life? He wonders, and these questions that he's asking, he's not wrong. Is Meyerism really real, or is it just a hoax that someone made up and really isn't true? And is he really ruining his whole life? He wonders, and she even says that it's not going to be real if he has to plant 10 trees every time they make out, because that's exactly what he's doing. Every time they seem to make out, he plants these 10 trees because obviously they're sins, and she knows that these two are secretly together. Ashley's family does in fact move in with Hawk's family for a little bit, which freaks out Ashley's mother at first, especially when her kids are starting to begin to use the electro stimulation machine. It's a really great stuff that we get here. We get to really see Ashley's family kind of be afraid of Meyerism. Like, they're not used to some of the ways Meyerists are. They're not used to the ways of Meyerists, and Ashley doesn't seem nearly as affected, but her family clearly is very affected, and it's very interesting to see. And even in this scene, we see Sarah's ruthless side comes out. She judges Ashley's mom harshly and says that IS lacks compassion and doesn't really have any emotion whatsoever, doesn't really care about others, which is extremely wrong, obviously. I mean, it's totally compassionless thing to say about, someone who's just been remembering her dead husband. Obviously, Ashley's mom does have compassion, but Sarah just doesn't see it that way. And we get this great scene with Sarah in this episode that I absolutely love, because we realize that Sarah is not really judging Ashley's mom. She's just seeing Tessa. And we get this incredible scene in this episode where basically Sarah decides to think of what her life could be like if she was like Tessa. We find out Tessa was that Tessa escaped Meyerism when she was young, and while searching for some background about Allison, Sarah stumbles upon Tessa's files. She drives to Tessa's home, which looks like it might be somewhere in Brooklyn, and she sees the woman and her children leave the house and then tries to the door, which is open, and it's this incredible scene. There isn't a word of dialogue in this scene, but Sarah basically, she smells the food in Tessa's fridge. She reads the sensitive label on Tessa's books of condoms, using her toilet as if it's really a house that belongs to an ex-lover and not a sister, which is interesting because we find that Tessa is her sister, and she's really trying to think of what her life could be like if she might not be a Meyerist, and if she really abandoned that faith. Could she be like Tessa? But it's a really great scene. You really do see that Sarah, I think, knows that she's a Meyerist, but also is kind of thinking, what could my life be like? It's very interesting to see. She kind of thinks this is wrong, and I really do like seeing that, so really good stuff there. And, this kind of gets Sarah to open up more to Ashley's family. She does decide to bring them to listen to Cal's sermon. He announces the Meyers will be taking care of the illegal workers, and he reminds everyone that the Meyers will remain in light and warmth while the IS meets a terrible faith. And this upsets Ashley, who leaves during the sermon. She tells Hawk that she's sick of the judginess in an organized religion, and that she said it's always the same, and if you're in, you're saved. If you're out, you're damned. Which she's not wrong about. If you're in, then they save you, but if you're not a Meyerist, they pretty much ridicule you. And Hawk decides that he's going to go along with her. If Ashley's going to be ridiculed and she's going to be, hated against, and no one's really going to care about her and everyone's going to treat her like shit, then he's going to go with her. He decides that he's just going to have sex. He decides that he wants to be with her. He wants to be with her. He takes him into the car, which earlier in the episode they did try to have sex, and he, of course, shut it down. This is the first time where he decides he's not going to shut it down. He is, in fact, going to be with her, and it's a really powerful scene. I love the way that was done, and I love the way they made the sex scene so much more than that. It wasn't just a sex scene between these two. It was more of these two basically declaring that they are each other. That's who they're for. They're for each other. Whatever the other one wants, the other one's going to want. I thought that was a really great scene. I really enjoyed that. And like I said, Abe is very much in this investigation in this episode. Eddie doesn't have a ton to do in this episode, but he does have a good amount of stuff, definitely. He doesn't have a ton to do. Like I said, it's very focused on Hawk and Ashley and Sarah, which I definitely really did enjoy. Not to say that Eddie doesn't have a lot to do, but definitely there's less for Eddie to do than other episodes that we've seen. So definitely we see that was very interesting, the way that was done. Cal and Eddie, you do see, are continuing the whole situation, what's going on there. We see Cal actually makes a strange leader for Meyerism since he doesn't really have a family. You can see her in his eyes when he's with this guy Russell and to hang out, and Russell shrugs that he has to go home to his wife and kids. And again, it's a really good scene. You see that Cal really is all alone. Mary's getting too close to Sean. Cal's just alone. Everyone really seems to have someone. Eddie has Sarah, Mary even has Sean, and Cal can't afford to lose her. She's the only person who will put Cal above everyone else, and she's the only family he has. And it's really interesting the way that he's slowly losing Mary, and the way that Mary really seems to not care as much, that's not the word, but just the fact that he didn't open himself up to her. Now it's too late, because now it seems like he is starting to like her, but now it's just too late. So that's pretty much everything that happens in episode 6. Really great stuff. But then we get to episode 7, which, oh my god, I have so much to say about this episode. Episode 7 is truly a masterpiece. Everything about this episode is incredible. I love this episode. This is a deep, dark episode, and it should have been. I mean, this episode really, it doesn't get more in depth with Meyerism than it does with this episode. Hugh Dancy in this episode, Aaron Paul, just everyone was incredible here. There was so much love at episode 7. Let's just get into it, because there's so much to talk about with this one. Basically, the episode really starts off. There's a lot we learn about Myris, but the big thing is that we learn about Myris from the way that they handle their own transgressions, especially when it comes from Cal. We see this is really the first time that Cal really is trying to do something good and selfless. He's trying to give the Hondurans refugee from the government, but it requires to defy the movement's leaders, which is the biggest sin imaginable in the group, obviously, because he can't just go against the movement's leaders. He needs to go to Bill and Felicia, and it doesn't seem like Cal wants to do that. It seems like he wants to do this on his own, and we already know that Bill and Felicia are trying to keep Cal in check. Like, they already told him that he doesn't really deserve this and that he's not really a good leader. And this episode very much explores that, very much gets more into that. We see that there are press helicopters closing the compound. Sarah, Bill, and Felicia are all more worried about bad press, and they are actually about helping these refugees and their children. It's very interesting to see. They don't really seem to care as much about the people more than they do the press and how they're going to depict Meyerism. And that's interesting that the one person who doesn't have kids is the one who actually wants to help the kids. And Sarah does eventually come around later, but Cal really at first is the only one to do this. There's a vote among the elders. Cal's forced to tell the Hondurans that they need different places to stay, but he can't bring himself to just do that. We see he tells them that the light directs us, and the light tells him that he has to fight for them. He's not just going to not fight for them. He wants to fight for them. He wants to make sure that things go well for them. And it turns out the light is telling him other things. We see that he should go back to the cabin and investigate Allison, and it's interesting we saw that. We also see that Eddie, throughout this episode, he's trying to get through to Allison. He's trying to figure out more what's going on there. If Cal actually did kill, if, Allison's husband was killed, if he actually committed suicide, what's going on there. So we do get a lot of that in these 3 episodes. But Eddie runs back to warn Allison that Cal's onto their scheme, but it's too late because Cal commands Allison to unburden and sends Eddie to the walk for helping an evil deserter lying about his supposed affair with Miranda and losing her faith. And we get this incredible scene between Cal and Eddie, where basically Cal admits that he knows that Eddie is not telling the truth, and that he didn't have an affair, and he knows that Eddie is steering away from Myers, and basically gives Eddie 2 choices. Or the other choice is that he can basically the other choice he gives Eddie is that he can just, walk away forever and not have to worry, and basically just walk away forever, never come back, never become a problem for Cal. I don't have Cal worry about him. Very interesting scene, the way that that was done. I definitely really did enjoy that. It's a really powerful scene as well, because you can really see that Cal really doesn't want to give Eddie a choice. Like, he doesn't really want to have to make the choice for Eddie. It's Eddie's choice, and he basically makes Eddie realize they need to take this walk. And when Eddie tells Sarah about the walk, she demands to know what his punishment for, but his explanation that is being top secret at 7-hour stuff seems to shut her up for the time being. And come to think of it, that is a really good excuse for things. Why? It's because of 7-hour stuff, pretty much, because of the fact that he can't tell her anything. And it really comes up with this idea of, if you're doing the right thing, does it matter if you're doing it for the wrong reasons? Because Eddie wants to make up for his own transgressions, but of course he's lying to his entire family about it. But it really does make sense why he's doing that. He doesn't want them to think he's steering away. He cares about his family. He understands that they're very deep into Meyerism. He himself just doesn't feel into Meyerism anymore. And Hawk has this sudden urge in this episode to redevote himself to Meyerism only after Ashley leaves the compound and all temptation is removed from her life. And we see Ashley's mother, Ashley decides that she doesn't want to be a Meyerist, that she wants to basically be an IS and continue to do that, and she's now left the compound. She just doesn't agree with what they're doing, and this really makes Hawk realize that he does want to be a Meyerist, and it's just an interesting direction to take him in. I think the actor that's playing him is doing a great job. I think definitely they found a really good actor who's playing Hawk, and like I say, he's not just a typical teenager. He simply is just trying to figure out what he really wants to do. Does he want to be a Meyerist? What does he really want to do here? It's a very interesting scene. And we see Meyerism itself is the right thing that people seek out for the wrong reasons. We see Felicia and Bill. They keep saying they've been sent in to oversee the New York sector, but who exactly is saying in which Dr. C. Meyer lying in his hospital bed? Turns out a lot of people are justifying their actions by claiming they're having conversations with Meyer, which is very interesting. Silas also says he's been communicating with Steve, who tells Silas that the movement is over, or at least over for Cal. And then we get this incredible scene between Cal and Silas that I know everyone wants me to talk about because it's really the big moment of this episode. Mary comes in, basically tells Cal that, she yells at Cal for sending Sean away because it's clear that Cal doesn't want Mary with Sean. He doesn't want Mary with Sean because he's losing Mary. He feels like Mary's the one person that can bring him to light, and he needs Mary in his life. Mary, of course, is really pissed because she actually is starting to get close with Cal. She's starting a genuine relationship, and she doesn't want Cal to, she doesn't want Cal to lose that. She wants that dynamic with Sean. And basically, after Mary leaves, though, we see Silas. But the thing is, no one else saw Silas. Mary did not see Silas. And I'm thinking that this really was a vision because what Silas says here really seems like what Cal is thinking. That Silas basically decides that the movement is over for Cal. That the movement is a fraud and it's worse. He's an alcoholic salesman just like his father. And Cal supposedly kills him with a vase, but I really feel this is in Cal's mind. Why? Let's go back to that scene in episode 5 with Eddie, how he thought that Cal and Sarah having sex obviously didn't actually, making out, it actually didn't happen. I really think this is more Cal just thinking about this himself. Like, he's really thinking to himself, am I a fraud? Am I really sincere in what I'm doing? Do I really deserve this? I think he's really starting to question himself, and it's really starting to break him. And I really think this episode shows that Cal is on the verge of cracking, especially the end of the episode, where we see Cal's literally mopping up the blood with bath towels, and basically we know why he is feeling this way. He just doesn't feel maybe that he's qualified to be this leader. Maybe before he did, but now I think he's really starting to question, does he really want to do this? And basically the last scene of this episode, we see Cal, he's getting very drunk, he's letting Sarah's calls go to voicemail. I mean, I think is really struggling with what to do about this. And I think we really started seeing in this episode that Sarah might be the leader for Meyerism, which honestly would make sense. I mean, she's been the most loyal, she really trusts Meyerism, she's very deep in her beliefs, and she gives a speech that suggests that Silas's death will lead to end times. Meyers can't risk looking like extremists. She says that they can't give the government any reason to destroy them, trying to convince the other Meyers to help the Hondurans, and Sarah reminds them that Meyer took a chance on them, and they need to take a chance with refugees. In times of struggle, they are one. In times of strife, they are strong. In times of change, they remain. If darkness that falls, they are lights. It's a great scene. I definitely love seeing that. And basically the way this episode ends, we see Eddie and Hawk. Hawk actually breaks up with Ashley for the time being. I don't think this is completely over, but Ashley basically chooses her religion over Hawk, which it's sad, but it does make sense. I mean, this is a girl that clearly has been told all her life that Meyerism is wrong, and she's gonna stick by that. She knows that. I think she really does care about Hawk, but she also, I think, knows that Hawk doesn't really want to be in this religion. He's just himself thinking that because of what's going on. I think Hawk is kind of just thinking it's the right thing to do. It's a very interesting direction, and you're really wondering if Hawk is gonna come away. Really, does he want to lead? Does he want to be Meyerist? Does he not want to be Meyerist? I mean, I do feel like Ashley plays a very pivotal role in his life, and I don't think this is the end of Hawk and Ashley by any means. I think we are going to see those two again, now for a while, but I feel like we definitely are going to see them again before the season ends. Even Eddie, maybe we could have Eddie possibly be the one to turn against the Myeris, and I think that might be the way to go. Maybe that could happen, definitely. But definitely seems like we are getting a new leader, and that Cal is not going to be that leader anymore. It could end up, I think Sarah definitely could be the one to do that. I think it would make sense if that was going to happen. But overall, guys, everything that happened in these 3 episodes, I really did enjoy these 3 episodes. There's a lot to talk about, though, because as I said, Cal very much is very deep. Also, Mary, it seems like, is now having this side affair with this doctor. Very interesting. I don't really know where this came from, but this is very interesting. But the way that this is going, I definitely really do love. Let's talk about Abe for a second, because like I said, I didn't really talk about Abe as much. Pretty much because Abe, throughout all these episodes, he's investigating. He's trying to figure out if he really wants to be a Myeris, if he really wants to succumb to this, and it's a very interesting scene. I really love that. Very interesting journey that Abe is taking. I like that he's not just a detective. I love that he really is trying to think, do I really want to be Myeris? Do I actually want to, is this actually going to help my daughter? Things like that. It's a very interesting scene. I really love the way that's going. And the way this is affecting Hawk and Eddie, I think is really great. And the way that Hawk is kind of understanding Eddie, like he understands that Eddie is turning against Meyerism, and he's not upset about him with it. He's kind of just more embracing it. I think is interesting. I really do love that. I like seeing Ashley stray away because obviously, again, like I said, anyone that's IS, they kind of have a very strong belief with that, and I feel like Ashley is getting a lot stronger with her beliefs. Is Hawk going to stray away? Is Eddie going to stray away? I mean, there are a lot of things that could happen here. Definitely very interesting. I feel like we get that sense, though, that while Eddie does want to stray away, he doesn't want to because of his family. He wants to keep his family. His family's very important to him, and he doesn't want to lose that family bond that he has. But overall, guys, when you guys saw these 2 episodes, I loved all 3 of these episodes, especially episode 7. Episode 7 was incredible. I loved everything about it. I can't wait for the final 3 episodes of the season. It is going to get crazy. I don't know what's going to happen, but let me know what you guys saw these episodes. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for The Flash, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.